Hey there.
Has someone texted Normie?
Yeah, I just texted. I asked him if he was joining. He said yes, so he should be on momentarily. We'll give him a second here.
John, nice background, unless you're downstairs.
No, I had a meeting at council chambers this week, so I snapped a few pictures. So.
Oh, very good. How'd you guys do in your ball game yesterday?
Here comes Doug.
They did. They played well. They lost in the finals.
Fair enough. Fun time.
It was a good tournament, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Jeff Harris there. That's a nice background, Jeff.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I was a little late. My fault.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. It is the 19th of April at 5:46 p.m. Present are council members Harris, Bub, Blake, Lang, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $8,200.
Good evening. This is our first of 3 requests this evening. We would like to move in this request $8,200 from salary and wages line item to the maintenance building and grounds. We would like to do some capital improvements to our office area. So this first one would be for bathroom and hallway replacement of flooring. We've already received the estimate from Nice Carpet. To give you a little bit of background of why we have this excess in this account is we had a longtime employee leave the office to take another position at the end of 2000 or at the end of last year. And we're not going to fill her position until June 28th of this year. So we have from January 1st to June 27th, basically half of her salary and fringe benefits that we would like to use a lot of that money to do some capital improvements. Thank you.
I'll offer a motion. Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Harris. Any questions and or discussion? So what's the reason why the delay in hiring?
We were trying to figure out who we wanted to place in the position. It's actually a promotion from probation officer to probation officer specialist. So we wanted to take our time and we wanted to see what interest we had internally, and we wanted to kind of evaluate the people that were interested in the position. And it's just taken some time to make sure we get the right fit for the job.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Yes, and then the next item is the appropriation of $8,200.
Yeah, so that one we're wanting to then move the money into that account so then we can make the arrangements for the first improvement, which would be the flooring, and we would set up the date of installation, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I'll offer a motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $550,000.
Yeah, this is an appropriation for 2 pieces of equipment that will be funded out of our stormwater and sanitary sewer funds. First piece of equipment is a television or a camera truck for sewer lines. That'll be funded about 75% with sanitary funds, about 25% with stormwater funds. We use that vehicle to televise storm and sanitary lines. And the second vehicle is a street sweeper, and that will be funded entirely by the stormwater. The current currently they have two street sweepers down there. This is going to be a little bit smaller model we're buying. That's going to get onto some more tighter spaces for us and some catch basin work. Again, it's going to be funded out of the stormwater funds. So if the current one they have is over 10 years old, as with the camera truck, both these are over 10 years old, and that kind of follows along with our equipment replacement fund to try to replace these pieces of equipment out every 10 years. I should say that both these pieces of equipment get used almost every day. So there's a lot of hours and a lot of miles on those trucks. So.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
Offer a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any further questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Roger. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation amount of $13,400.
Okay, this is our second capital improvements request. So again, we had an overage in the salaries line item for the lady that left the probation department. So that's part of the excess amount. And we would like to take that money and move it into another account for the improvements.
Motion.
Second.
A motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any questions and or discussion? Director Rhodes, are you on here?
Yes, I am.
So why is this under maintenance of building and grounds and not being moved into capital improvements for these things?
That's a fair question. I wasn't involved in the putting the finance committee request forms together, Doug. It's not something I was involved in.
Okay.
So Mr. Marmy, I can kind of answer that. We have, that's just the account that we have set up. I mean, we don't have a capital improvements account within the probation department. If we have to create an account such as that, we can do that. That's just the account that we currently have available that's been created through the auditor's office. So that's why we chose to pick that account.
Yeah, the thing is capital improvements citywide is handled under a capital improvements account that is handled separately from the general fund. And one thing that it does is it does keep track of how much we're spending in capital improvements annually. So this will go under maintenance of buildings and grounds, kind of to maintain property, not necessarily to do like major renovations and things like that. So I was just curious. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And then the disappropriation from salary and wages for $13,400. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by
Mr. President
Bob.
or Mr. Chair, point of order. I thought we just voted on section 4. Aren't we appropriating now? Didn't we just disappropriate the
Wait a
13?
minute. Do I have yes, you are correct.
So I think we need a
So-
motion to appropriate the 13.4 now.
Yes, you are correct. I had those backwards on my
So-
paperwork.
So moved.
And I'll
Okay.
second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $8,770.
This is the last request that we have. So this is again for very old flooring that's down in our office. So we would like to move $5,950 from the salary and wages, and then $2,820 from health insurance line into the other account, the maintenance building.
Okay.
Offer a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any questions and or discussion? I would like to find out from the auditor's office, get an answer by the time we vote on this as full council as to why they chose to go this direction instead of capital improvements. So I don't know if anybody is on the call from the auditor's office, but if not, I'd like to have that answer as to why.
But I'll go ahead and follow up on that for you, Doug. I'll get
Thank
that
you.
answer from him. Yep, you're welcome.
Alrighty. Seeing no further questions and or discussion, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And then now we need the appropriation into the maintenance and grounds for $8,770. Entertain a motion.
So
Motion
moved.
by Bub,
Second.
second by Lang. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Sad.
you. Mr. Marmy, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
If that should somehow change where either you guys or the city would want that to go through capital improvements, would that be something that I would have to then reappear
No.
for the finance?
No, probably not. It would just be a matter of moving it into a separate account, and we'd probably do it as an amendment on the floor.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $1,400.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the membership of Moose Lodge 499 has donated $1,400 to the fire department for the purchase of 2 ice rescue suits. So we'd like to have that money moved into their fire safety supplies so they can make that purchase.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Director.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation of $20,000.
Yes, this is for cleanup of the properties at 221, 225 West Main, more commonly known as the Mud Pit properties. This is money that was donated from the Licking County Land Bank to get that property cleaned up. I don't know if you've been by there or not, but it looks way better than it did. And this is a great example of government agencies and public and private working together to get this accomplished.
I would agree. Motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Lang. Yes, I'd agree too that it looks fantastic. So any further questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Public Safety Office for federal fiscal year 2022 Ohio Traffic Safety Grants Program, Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, the Impaired Driving Enforcement Program, and the Drug Driving Enforcement Program.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This will cover overtime expenses for those selective traffic enforcement programs.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Lang. Questions and or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm confused about what the selective traffic enforcement program is.
Well, that I really don't know exactly what that program is. I think it could be for any sort of speeding violations, high impact areas where there's been determined to be an issue.
I can answer it. The STEP program is a program that is set up, and actually I believe that there has to be a certain percentage of citations in a particular area and stops, and there's a percentage that has to be met. And then if they do that, then that time period in which the law enforcement officer works can be paid under that program. But there's certain criteria. I don't know the specific criteria, but it's set up in a general area. And then they have to have so many stops in that area in the time frame that they're looking at. And then so many citations have to also be given at the same time. So.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $30,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the time of year that we get our updated insurance premiums. And this year, the premium did go up by about $35,000. We had an additional $5,000 in the account. So we're asking for an appropriation of $30,000 from that appropriated balance. Reasons for the increase: we do have a new fire station building on Sharon Valley. We have some new police cars. Some values were readjusted. And when we sit down to renegotiate the health insurance, I'll certainly take into consideration of the increase that we got this year to see if we can beat that back down, or see if we can look at how our deductibles are scheduled on a few items to try to control the cost.
Very
Motion.
good.
Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any questions and or discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Lang.
Yeah, Director Rhodes, I see the increases from of the premium went from 270 to 305.
That's correct.
But we're only asking for 30,000.
Yes.
To appropriate.
I had an additional $5,000 in the account that we could use.
Okay, just wanted to double check we had enough. We were appropriating enough. Thank you.
We did. Thank you.
Yeah, just knowing what I know on the insurance side. The other thing is building materials and labor costings, in particular, building materials have skyrocketed. So if there is a loss, you've had to adjust the replacement cost and the cost that you have to calculate as far as what you need to insure it at. So that's another factor that goes into probably these increases, because I know that's happening with all insurance companies across the country.
Yep.
So any
Thank you.
further questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director. The next item is a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to apply for financial support from the state of Ohio 2021 Nature Works Grant.
Mr. Chair, I'll speak to this. We're applying to the Nature Works grants. We want to upgrade the playground facilities on Horns Hill, and we would use these grants to do just that.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Lang. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by thumbs up. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And with that,
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. With that, this Finance Committee meeting stands adjourned.
Yeah, up next will be Service Committee. Those present are myself, Rath, Harris, Blake, Bub, and Barker. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 of us. Okay. Up first, consider resolution 20-25, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into contract with the Licking County Humane Society, subject to the appropriation of funds for the provision of certain animal welfare functions.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I can speak to that. Currently, the city doesn't have a animal control officer. The county's been handling all the dog warden side of animal enforcement. So what we're looking to do is we need a humane agent, and we would like to negotiate with the Humane Society to provide that function for us. So that's the purpose behind this resolution. We have with us tonight Lori Carlson, who's the executive director of the Licking County Humane Society, who has a presentation to kind of spell things out as far as what they can provide for us.
Well, with the nature of the resolution, I would suggest that maybe we have the presentation by Ms. Carlson before we vote on the resolution. Does anybody have any objections to that? Well, with that being said, Ms. Carlson, I will yield the floor to you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm a fast talker. I know you guys are on a tight schedule, so.
Mr. Barker, I don't see her screen anywhere.
You don't see her screen?
Nope. All I see is everybody in the meeting.
I see it on my end. She's definitely presenting.
Are you in full screen mode?
Most
Yeah.
likely.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, Spence, I've got it too. Just
Now I see. Yeah.
Jeff, do you have it now or no?
Yeah, if I exit full screen, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I just want to give you an overview of the Humane Society and the Humane Agent Services that we offer. The Licking County Humane Society has been serving Licking County since 1966. We are a nonprofit organization. We are a public charity. And the first slide basically helps you understand where our funding comes from and how we spend our dollars. So you will see on this first pie chart that the majority, obviously the majority of our income comes from fundraising or general donations, but the largest part of our fundraising comes through general contributions or grants. So about 62% of it. Another 24% comes through our earned income programs. That includes things like adoption fees, fees from spay and neuter costs. We run low cost wellness clinics, those kinds of things. And then you'll see that the pie gets a little smaller in terms of there's some investment income. And then there is a very small, the gray section is other revenue, and included in that other revenue are other contracts that we have with other municipalities to provide humane agent services for them. And if you look at the pie on the right side, it shows you basically that almost 80% of the money that we raise goes directly to our mission and programming. About 12% administrative, and about 9% goes to actual fundraising. One thing I do want to point out here, you'll see that our total revenue versus, and these are 2019 numbers, by the way, our 2020 audit, we have an audit and we haven't finalized that. Our 990 hasn't been finalized yet. I do want to point out though that the difference between our revenue and our total expense, as many of you probably know, we added a medical center. We opened a medical center in 2020 as part of our operations here. And $2 million was pledged by community members and foundations to pay for the cost of that medical center expansion. And so in any given year over the next 5 years, about $400,000 to $500,000 of our revenue is pledge money that is coming in and goes directly to cover the costs associated with the medical expansion. So our community program, we offer lots of programming in the community. Obviously, we do traditional sheltering. About 81% of the animals that we take in are from owner surrenders, which means people who have, for whatever reason, need to rehome their pets. We provide low-cost spay and neuter services. We provide low-cost wellness and vaccine clinics, low-cost dentals. We run a food pantry here. We also provide food, pet food to the Licking County Food Pantry. We provide all of the pet food to the Meals on Wheels recipients in Licking County. We offer a pet respite program for those who are experiencing a medical crisis and need short-term out-of-home care for their pets. We do humane education. During non-COVID times, we do a lot of pet therapy programming. We visit about 10 nursing homes or assisted living facilities each month with pets. And also during non-COVID times, which hopefully those will be back soon, we provide obedience training classes to people in the community. So in particular, the Humane Agent Program, this is just some general information about the Humane Agent Program. Keep in mind that a humane agent must be appointed by a humane society. That is in the Ohio Revised Code. They are required to have certain qualifications, certain training, and they must be approved by the county probate court, as well as the mayor of the municipality that is receiving the service. You can, in addition, as Newark has in the past, have an ACO or an animal control officer. That is different than a humane agent. Humane agents specifically enforce Code 959, which has to do with animal abuse, cruelty, neglect, improper feeding, inadequate water or no water, inadequate or improper sheltering of animals, unsanitary conditions, or animals that have been abandoned by their owner. Humane agents work with not only domestic animals, or what we call, or what the law calls companion animals, which is dog, cats, rabbits, like pocket kinds of pets, but we also serve to investigate large animal cruelty. So for example, horses, cattle, kind of you name it, if there's an abuse or neglect allegation, that falls under the Humane Society. Currently, the Humane Society employs one full-time agent and one part-time agent or relief agent. And then you'll see in that last column a list of all of the municipalities that we are currently providing service to. So it's really important to understand that animals that are confiscated by the humane agent or that come into our care are provided with very specific services. They receive veterinary care. We do have a veterinarian on staff, including emergency after hours care as needed for animals that come into the system after hours. We do provide housing for those animals. The average length of stay for a humane agent dog is 23 days. The average length of stay for a cat is 41 days. However, please note that when a case is held up in the court system, sometimes it can go for months. We've had a case that finally resolved about a week ago, and we had that dog in care for 13 months. So if it's a court case, it can impact whether or not the animal can be adopted or released to a new owner. We do behavioral assessments and training for all dogs that come in who have any kind of, well, we behavior assess every dog, and if there's specific behavioral needs, then we do a training program for those animals. Every animal that comes into our care is also given a spay or neuter. If they need dentals, if they have a specific medical condition or a medical need that needs to be addressed, that is provided. Every one of the pets are microchipped, and then we also fully vaccinate, provide preventatives such as flea and tick medicine, heartworm medicine, etc., for all the animals, and we care for them until they are rehomed. This is just a quick overview of the humane agent process, and I will go through this very quickly because, again, I know your time is very tight. So when the Humane Society receives a referral, the agent who's taking the call determines whether or not it actually falls under the jurisdiction of us per Ohio Revised Code 959. If not, sometimes it's just a matter of helping people get connected with the right resource, getting them directed to who can assist them with their call. The agent is the person who determines, based on criteria that have been set, about whether or not a case is screened in or screened out. And then the humane agent prioritizes the calls. The agent's the one who initiates the investigation, makes contact with the owner or caregiver. If no violation is observed, then the case is closed. If a violation is observed, notification of the violation is provided in writing. And then this is a really important part. The Humane Society spends a great deal of time educating and providing resources to people who have violations. It is not our goal to remove animals from their home. It's our goal to teach people how to meet the minimum standards of the law. And so we do a lot of support around that. We provide education about the law. If it's something that somebody is straight, here's an example. If we go out in a case because we've gotten an allegation that a dog has horrible fleas and has flea bites and dermatitis and all the health situations that can be related to that, and we go out and the family just can't afford to take the animal to the vet, then we'll give them flea and tick medicine. Again, if it's those kinds of minor interventions that we can assist with, we want to do that. We've given hay for horses, and if we have dog houses that are donated here at the Humane Society, we will provide those. So really, it's always our goal to try to provide education and get the owner to come into compliance with the minimum standards of the law. If the compliance with the law is achieved, again, the case is closed. If compliance with the law is not achieved, or if the cruelty is so egregious at the beginning that it may get escalated to asking the appropriate prosecutor to intervene, we file charges, then an animal will be confiscated, brought immediately to the Humane Society, evaluated by a veterinarian, treated and housed in whatever way is necessary. And then the agent will work in conjunction with the prosecutor's office to take a case to present for trial. So this is some humane agent data. Thanks to Tim, I was able to get some of Toby's old data, which was not easily accessible, but he did get it, and I appreciate his work on getting that for us. So on the left-hand column, you'll see our 2000, again, I think these are 2020 numbers. So you'll see that we received 300 referrals in 2020, 246 were investigated, open for investigation, and that 136 animals were confiscated. Now, I will tell you these numbers for 2020 are lower than normal because there were about 6 weeks where we were, during the height of the pandemic, that we were only allowing the humane agent to go out on those most critical, severe, life-endangering cases. So those numbers are probably, well, they are less than what they typically are. And then on the right, you'll see the Newark data, and you'll see that from what I could piece together from Toby's records, that he received about 203 referrals, 71 cases were, well, it looks like he received 203 or did 203 investigations. So that was either an attempt to make contact with the owner or an actual contact with the owner. Then he did 71 follow-up visits with only 17 confiscations. I don't think it's a surprise to any of you to see that Toby's confiscations are much lower than what we would consider to be normal, because there has been a challenge for quite a while about where to take pets if they were confiscated. So that explains why that number is so much lower. And we certainly would expect, with the right resources in place, that that number would go up. So this is probably the most important slide. And this is the slide about what services can the Humane Society provide to the city of Newark that will serve the animals, the abused and neglected animals in our community, as well as take the load off of NPD that they're currently having to shoulder these animal-related cases. So you can see here that those in green, that I've highlighted in green, are the types of situations that would fall to the Humane Society instead of NPD. And I won't go through all these individually, but I think you can see that there are a lot of challenges that are being thrown at NPD right now, the officers, the patrol officers, to manage these humane agent cases. And the challenge with humane agent cases is a lot of times it's building a case over time, over multiple referrals, over multiple visits. And unfortunately, the officers they can't make the commitment to do that. They have other things that are challenging, and we understand that. So that gives you just an idea of the different things. And one of the other things too that I think is important to note, that we would be able to provide these services after hours as well as during 9 to 5, which is really critical, again, to be able to assist officers after hours when they have cruelty or animal related issues that fall under our purview. And then this just is a very quick outline of what our screening priorities are. Obviously, seriously injured animals are our first response. Those might include an animal that's been hit by a car or has bleeding or has had heat stroke or is locked in a hot car. Those cases take priority. Number two is exigent circumstances, and those are typically circumstances that involve some imminent risk to an animal's life or imminent risk of evidence being destroyed. And then third is just the non-emergency contacts. Those are our general animal welfare referrals that we receive. And then fourth is non-emergency government assist, things like evictions, set-outs, those kinds of things. So I would love to invite each of you to come out for a tour, see the shelter, see the work that we're doing out here. Some of you have actually visited the shelter in the past. Love to show you the quality of care that we provide to our animals, introduce you to our medical team. So my phone number and email is on the bottom of the page there, and I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Jeff Rath, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you. Lori, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here, and
of course
appreciate the visual aids from Dasson as well. Mr. Harris, you had a question.
I do. So what happens if there's like stray dogs running through the neighborhood, or I even know there's some people that have pigs, potbelly pigs. Is that something you guys would handle?
Stray dogs are handled by the Licking County Dog Shelter, and there's no cost associated with that for the city of Newark, because that is covered through your dog tag license money. So anytime there is a stray dog that gets reported, we don't manage strays here. All stray, in fact, even any strays that people come here with, we send them to animal control because that's their area of expertise. And again, they can provide that in the city of Newark as well, because people in the city of Newark buy dog licenses as well. Your second question was about pot-bellied pigs, or I'm assuming just mean kind of livestock in general. We cannot enforce city ordinances, so things that have to do with what animals are allowed in the city. We cannot enforce leash laws. We cannot enforce tag violations. Again, that's the animal shelter. Now, if that pig is being neglected or abused in some way, isn't being fed properly, is being housed in unsanitary conditions, those kinds of things, then yes, we would handle that.
Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm not sure if this is a question that Lori can answer, or maybe Director Hickman, it might be one, but so, if we go down this path, which seems to be probably the right decision to do, what does it look like on the public end? Who will the public call if there's an animal issue? Will they call NPD and NPD will forward it to the Humane Society? What does that look like?
They'll be able to call the Humane Society or the Humane Agent directly up until 8 p.m. at night. After 8 p.m. at night, then they would call NPD, and NPD would determine whether it was an emergency situation, and then they could call the humane officer in hours between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m.
Okay. Mr. Hickman, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, and even if someone would call during normal business hours, I've had discussions with the command staff, and we would still send an officer out to do a preliminary investigation and then reach out to the Humane Society for them to actually respond and handle the call.
Okay. Ms. Hall, and you're still on mute.
Yeah, I have a question. Well, first of all, Lori, I think you guys do a great job. I'm really happy you're there. The facility looks great. What is this going to cost the city per year? Or do we pay per incident? Or how is that going to work?
Can I speak up to that? That's the purpose of the resolution here. Is we're asking for permission to get into negotiations with the Humane Society to figure all those issues out.
Yeah, so there's no answer to that question at this point in time.
Correct.
Like Mr. Hickman said, the reason for this legislation is to give him permission to enter into negotiations and come up with agreeable terms on both sides, and then they come back to us and we determine whether we want to appropriate money for that or not.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bub.
Yep. Certainly wish everyone the best in those conversations. And with that, I'll offer a motion to move this on to full council.
Fair enough. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Harris. And do I have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Mr. Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lori, good to see you here and looking forward to the fundraiser that's going to be later on this year. So thank you for everything that you and your staff do. I know that this is not a part of this resolution when it relates to dealing with stray cats or nuisance cats, but with your organization, you have vast resources as far as research and how other communities have handled those types of situations. Will you be able to possibly provide any type of recommendations that we might be able to do in the city of Newark with regarding to feral stray cats and nuisance cats?
I'd be happy to consult on that, Jeremy. And we have a relationship also with a newer program. I don't know if you're familiar with it, called the Licking County TNR, which stands for Trap, Neuter, and Return, where they actually trap the cat, spay and neuter it, give it a rabies vaccine, and then they return it to its location, wherever it's living, with a caretaker who's responsible to make sure that they're fed and that no new cats come into the community and all into that population, et cetera. So I would be happy not only to come to the table on that myself, but to bring Dr. Joanna Reen, who is running that TNR program.
Well, perhaps as the negotiations move forward with this resolution, that can hopefully be a part of the discussion that you have. Like, would that be, I hope that could be considered, Director Hickman.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Bassett, you have a comment or a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Shelby just wanted to say hi to Lori again. He hasn't seen her. She hasn't seen Lori for a while. So, and thank you. But in addition to that, our office works very closely with Humane Society because we have countywide jurisdiction in abuse cases. We have an excellent working relationship with the Humane Society, and we have the utmost confidence that if the city were able to negotiate mutually satisfactory terms, that we would absolutely get our money's worth from the Humane Society. I can guarantee you that all of my prosecutors would agree with that 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great input. Do we have any other questions or comments? Well, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Bubb. We have a second. I'll stand corrected by Mr. Barker. I see one final question waving in the wind. Ms. Smith, your name and address for the record, please, and then your question.
Rochelle Bullen Smith, 237 Violet Court. I wanted to suggest that maybe the city do a review for the public as to what the requirements are for stray cats and stray dogs, as a lot of them have owners. They just don't particularly leash them or contain them in any way. And is that considered a form of abuse?
That's a good question and a good topic of discussion. Don't know that it's pertinent to the current legislation. That
there's a lot of people that are not aware that they need to leash their dogs, for instance. Same for cats. It's very difficult sometimes to know whether a cat is stray or not.
Yeah, I don't know that we have an education problem as far as dogs and leashes. I think that's fairly well known. And I don't see a lot of stray dogs running around. We do not have a leash law or a stray cat law or a law preventing people from cats going outdoors. So I know we don't have any ordinance resulting in that. We have any other questions or comments? All right. So all those in
No,
favor,
thank you.
all of those in favor of forwarding this on to council, signify with a thumbs up. 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed, same sign. That motion will pass with a vote of 5-0. Lori, thank you very much for your time and for all that you do. And I look forward to having the city work with you in the future. I'm sure that you guys will come to terms, agreeable terms, and look forward to your outstanding service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, up next, we're going to have a discussion on the expansion of public notices and use of social media when council is in consideration of zoning change.
Yes, so Mr. Chair, I would be happy to start that off with fellow Councilman Lang. When we started this pandemic
Go ahead.
a year ago, we already had the YouTube channel, and there was a Facebook page for Newark City Council that was created as a backup for the ability to live stream if the YouTube channel would go down. To date, knock on wood, we have not had to use it for that. But Councilman Lang brought a good thought to it, and we have sat down and in discussions with Law Director Sasson have come to what we think is some just additional public transparency. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Councilman Lang.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Spencer. So this is really just about fulfilling some promises made when we were last discussing our most recent zoning issue over on 21st Street in Mao. I had a number of constituents reach out saying, hey, it's kind of flew under the radar. I think part of that was the timing of when that all happened. But also at the time, there wasn't a particular development attached to it, so it didn't get flashy headlines or anything like that. And so the question was raised, well, how do we find out about these kinds of changes when they come up? And as everybody here knows, but maybe not everybody in the public knows, our typical process is we have a notice of public hearings, and the folks who live nearby, they get letters so that they're made aware. But unless you're really closely following what's going on, you may miss some of those. And so what we wanted to do was provide another way, really just an additional way, in addition to providing, we'll still continue providing the public notice via the advocate, which we're required to do by law, and sending out the letters. But what we're also going to start doing is we've worked it out with Janine, and I see President Ellington's on as well. Thank him for his help. We're going to have our clerk basically just copy and paste those public hearings into a notice that we'll publish to our Facebook page. And so it creates an easy way for folks who want to stay informed to just simply follow our, it's at Newark City Council. It's Facebook / Newark City Council is the page. I'll post it to my City Council page, Councilman Lang page later today. If you're not already following it, I'd suggest following it. It'll keep you up to date. We're also going to post, have Janine post the links to each of our agendas as meetings come up. So you'll get, reminders about the meetings as they come up. And so, we talked through it with Director Sasson to make sure we kind of had the right, language on the description of the page. I think it's important to note that the comments that folks might leave on those pages, they're considered, it's part of a public forum, and that's all well and good. We will not necessarily consider those official communications with council, and we've directed folks, if you do want to make official comments to council, would still suggest emailing those to Janine so that she can circulate them, and then they're read as part of our minutes. So really, this is meant to be an informal way for us to improve our transparency, provide additional public notice to people, just one more way to help folks stay informed. And with that, I don't know if Director Sasson or President Ellington have anything else to add, but thank you for allowing me just to share that with everybody.
Mr. Ellington, you want to add?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, fellas. basically, I talked to Director Sassen today, who I think might have some input here too. This is not going to be an official page for New York City Council. So in other words, if somebody does leave a comment or whatever, it's not going to be monitored. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Okay. So it's just going to be.
Asking Mr. Sassen. I'm very confused as to who's who here.
Director Sassen, you want to chime in?
Who are you asking?
That was just a general comment, but I'd like Director Sassen to say something if he could.
Hi, friend.
Well, I think I've had some good discussion with Jonathan and Spencer about the legal issues that are involved, essentially First Amendment issues. If you have questions about that, I could give you a constitutional law lecture if you'd like, but I'll stick with answering questions if you have any. But I think one of the issues that was kind of important to me also was that we emphasize this is not an official page, so that if people are filing an official document, making an official request, that this is not the place to do that. If the extreme example I would use is when people have to file bid documents or have to do something to meet a deadline. If they do that on the Facebook page and think that they've somehow met that deadline, that's going to be problematic. So it's just important that everyone know and that it be clear on the Facebook page. This is for information purposes only. It's for transparency purposes. Perhaps at some point in time, it'll actually stimulate more dialogue and input from citizens, but it's not an official page, which is really just a critical issue.
Sassen, I have a question for you. Let's say there's a development that's published on this page that happens to be in my ward, and somebody makes a comment on this development and makes reference to me. Maybe they ask me a question, maybe they make a statement about me, maybe they make a request from me. And then two questions, I guess, is one, am I obligated to respond to that? And then two, is that request or is that information subject to public information requests?
You're never under an obligation to respond to a constituent if you don't want to. You can ignore your constituents. That's your choice, and you do so at your own peril. But so you're not compelled to reply to them. If you do, it's in a public forum, so it is by definition a public record. So it's not in your custody, it's in the custody of Facebook, but it's in a public domain. And all court cases have essentially defined governmental Facebook pages as a traditional public forum. So anything that's there is open for anybody who has an electricity and an internet connection to read and comment on if they wish anywhere on the face of the planet.
Good.
One more thing. Thank you, Mr. Rath. I just wanted to be clear that we're not going to be monitoring this page. This is just a page for information. Am I straight on that, Mr. Line?
Yeah, that's correct. We really, the only involvement that our clerk will have is just to simply post. We do have both Spencer and I and Janine are administrators of the page, so we did post rules about there are certain categories of unprotected speech. If people start misusing the page and abusing it or trying to use it for commercial interests, things like that, we'll certainly consult Director Sassen to make sure we're enforcing that consistently. But that would really be the only time we'd ever monitor it or take anything down if it started getting abused in a manner that was not protected. And we did post. I've got a pinned post at the top of the page to kind of give folks instructions on what the page is meant for and the things that aren't permitted.
I know you're trying to be more open, which I give you a lot of credit for. My only other comment is if anyone wants to see the agenda or anything we're doing, it is on the City of Newark page. Just an FYI.
Yeah, I think really the intent is to make it easier to stay informed, right? So all you have to do is follow it, and most people are on Facebook checking their own feeds every day. So, it'll pop up right there. Hey, we've got a meeting tonight. Hey, there's, they'll get a couple of posts when we do public hearings, right, for zoning changes, because there's going to be one at council and one at planning commission, and they'll have another just a couple of other opportunities to make sure they're staying informed.
So back to the responsive question, and Caroline, I'll get to you here in just a second. I see it. Back to the responsive question. If this is not a monitored page, I understand that we're not compelled to respond, but I do like to respond to all of my constituents as well as I think everybody else on council does as well. If this is a non-monitored page, I could see there being some issues where people will post questions or comments that doesn't necessarily get to the person. Do you foresee that being an issue, and how should we go about resolving that? Mr. Sasson, do you have a response to that? Or
let me just frame the question first, and then Jonathan can fill in the blanks. But framing it from a legal perspective, you can't really limit the parameters for comments. The only thing that you can restrict or delete from comment sections are, like Jonathan said, non-protected speech, obscenity, pornography, threats of violence to persons or property. They're not going to be monitored, but there is going to be an administrator that can delete those kind of posts. If a comment comes up totally unrelated to the topic that was there, it's perfectly permissible for a user to do that. And if they make a comment on a completely unrelated issue, it's directed to someone who doesn't do much Facebook and doesn't see that comment, and it's not responded to. Well, I guess shame on the 10 of you for not looking at your own Facebook page. So yeah, the comments are going to be able to be on any topic that the commenter wants it to be on, not just the topic that was originally posted.
If I might just add real briefly, it's just like any other Facebook page, right? So, if somebody tags you in a comment, you'll get a notification of that. If they don't tag you, yeah, it could be missed. I mean, I certainly am going to follow the page myself, and hopefully, if anybody's got a question for me, I'll see it there. But I always tell people, please, text or email me. Try to put my number out there wherever to make it easy for folks to get a hold of me. But obviously things, you can't monitor all the web pages everywhere all the time. So it's just like anything else. I think it's just one more spot to monitor, and hopefully, folks want to get a hold of you, they'll tag you.
okay, Caroline, you had a question. If you would, your name and address for the record, please.
Carolyn Cook, 898 Lake Glow Court, Newark, Ohio. I just wanted to thank Jonathan for doing that and for trying to find another way to communicate with the people that live in Newark, because I think it's important that you use as many ways as you can to let us be part of the conversation and know what's going on. And I particularly was involved with that zoning conflict, and I appreciate that there's another, there's an additional way for me to find out information. And I do now get all of the information about the council meetings and everything. I don't understand always what you're doing, but I appreciate the fact that Jeremy and Jonathan always respond to me and give me information. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate council trying to work with the public and give us information. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Marmee?
Yeah, thank you. My question is, why just this one topic and why not everything then? What kind of situation are we going to get into down the road where, okay, we're posting these, but we're not posting everything like we do with all the other media?
What other, if I might, Mr. Chair, just curious, what other topics would you want to see covered? I mean, initially, I think we looked at just doing public hearings and then all of our meetings and agendas. If there's other notices that we send out publicly, I'm not opposed to posting those as well.
So you're just posting out the notices is all you're doing?
Yeah. And we talked about, potentially doing the agendas as well, but it gets cumbersome when we've got a 6-page agenda at times, and having to, turn that all into a JPEG and have Janine post it. We just thought the link is something that she can consistently post without really too much burden on her. And then the public notices, she's got to email that to the advocate anyway. So she's got that text and can just, copy and paste that in there. Those aren't as long.
Okay, so I guess I misunderstood. I thought it was just pertaining to zoning. So
yeah, that was just the primary driver of it. But as we talked, we figured it'd be easy enough to just add the agendas as well.
And all public notices.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Barker?
Mr. Chair, just one thing I wanted to mention, and you had mentioned if somebody posts to the page, we have it currently set where only no one can actually make a post unless they comment on a post we have made, being Janine on behalf of council, which is just these notices. So we won't have, other organizations or members of the public posting different things on the page unless they're commenting on a post we have made as a notice from council. And so, we've taken those precautions, and in multiple different places all along this page is Janine's contact information for the public to have to send communications to. And I think it's important that we think of this page as like a public bulletin board instead of a discussion page.
So this page has been created. It is called Facebook/Newark City Council.
Yes, sir.
And won't be confused with Newark, New Jersey. And it's up and running now.
Correct. The logo is our Newark branding, and it has the Newark N, and it says City of Newark, Ohio, USA. And
The backdrop's got a picture of our council chambers.
Yes.
Fair enough. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on this particular issue? Mr. Blake, and I want to keep this very brief because we do have 2 other committees to go through in about 13 minutes.
My question is, kudos to those who wanted to using Facebook and social media to keep the public informed. So, thank you for bringing the idea forward and proceeding with that. I think that's a great idea. My question is, and a lot of comments that I received over the last zoning concern or issue that occurred on 21st Street was the radius as to who is getting mailed notices from the particular development to the number of people that are around that development. And so when you're talking about expanding public notices, I don't know what exactly that particular radius of properties around a certain development is, but maybe even expanding that so that mailed notices could be put out. That's because a lot of people still are not on Facebook, or some people are not even wanting to use Facebook anymore. So looking at the traditional mail system or expanding that radius would be something I would suggest.
I'll let Mr. Sasson address that if you would, sir.
There's a multitude of places in the Newark codified ordinances that would have to be identified and addressed, and additional resources applied to the clerk of council to provide that notice. And it would go above and beyond anything the Ohio Revised Code requires or anything any other municipality that I know of requires. But if there's an interest to do that, you know my number.
Very good. Any other final comments? All right, I look forward to seeing this page up and in effect. And with that, the service committee is adjourned. Up next will be capital improvements.
And for what it's worth, the Facebook page already has 31 people following. Make that 32.
Okay, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we've got everybody. So I'll call this meeting of the Capital Improvements Committee to order. Those present are myself, Councilman Lang, Jeff Rath, Dee Hall, Mark Labutus, and Sean Fennell. Up first, we have live behind my other window. There we go. Resolution 21-29, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. Have an appropriation in the amount of $24,640. Do we have someone to speak on that?
I will, Mr. Chair.
Director
That
Rhodes.
is a PO that was closed out of the 2020 capital improvements. And I'd like to reappropriate those dollars. If you notice, we have a project going on the highway where we're clearing back brush and we're replacing fencing. I'll use part of those dollars for that. We also have some light poles in downtown Newark that we're going to split the cost with the special improvement district on to take those old brown mocha poles that are rusted and chipped, have them scraped and primed and painted. And then we're going to look at the heads that actually are holding water. If you look at some of our teardrop heads in the downtown area, you can see where they're holding water. And those funds would be used for those type of things.
Thank you, Director Rhodes. Is there any discussion from the committee?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Rath.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Labutus. I got a motion by Rath, second by Labutus. Any further discussion from the committee or anyone in the audience? I do not see any raised hands or videos on. So with that, we'll vote to send this on to full council. All those in favor signify with a thumbs up. All those opposed, same sign. And that passes 5-0. And with
Thank you,
that,
Mr. Chair.
thank you, Director Rhodes. And with that, this committee will stand adjourned. I believe up next is personnel.
Yeah, at this point, we are going to do personnel committee meeting. I think we're going to be a few minutes with that. So we're going to have to delay personnel until after city council, immediately after. Spencer will send out a new Zoom invitation.
Okay, so we're going to adjourn now then.
We're going to use the city council Zoom because it goes till.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It goes till about 9 p.m. on that scheduling. This one ends at 7 p.m. So we'll just pick up personnel meeting after full council adjourns. We'll see everybody at 7.